The message came through on a regular Tuesday morning. Commander Jake Morrison was drinking his coffee in the communications room of the space station when the alarm started beeping. He put down his cup and walked over to the main screen, where Lieutenant Amy Carter was already working. "What do we have?" Jake asked. Amy's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. Numbers and strange symbols filled the screen, then slowly changed into words they could understand. "It's a distress signal, Commander, coming from the Kelrath system." Jake leaned closer to read the message. The words were simple but filled with fear. "Help us. The Devourers come. Our world dies. Please, anyone." He felt his stomach tighten. The Kelrath people were peaceful aliens who had welcomed humans into space 15 years ago. They made beautiful art and spent their time thinking about big questions. They were friends, good friends, and now they were dying. "How far away are they?" Jake asked. 47 light-years from Earth," Amy replied. "The message is 3 days old already." Jake knew about the Devourers. Everyone in the space military knew about them. They were like insects, but much bigger and much more dangerous. They traveled from planet to planet, eating everything alive. 3 alien civilizations had already disappeared because of them. Whole worlds turned into empty rocks. "Get me Admiral Price right now," Jake ordered, "and start making a list of our best soldiers." Amy nodded and started working. Jake walked to the window and looked out at Earth below. The blue planet looked so peaceful from up here. But he knew the truth. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other. Wars, battles, conflicts. Other alien species thought humans were crazy for still having armies and weapons. Maybe they were right. Or maybe humans understood something that peaceful aliens had forgotten. Sometimes bad things come and someone needs to fight them. 6 hours later, the decision was made. The Earth Defense Council met in emergency session. They argued for 20 minutes, then voted. The result was clear. Earth would help the Kelrath people. But they would not send diplomats or scientists. They would send soldiers, warriors, the best fighters humanity had. Jake stood in the briefing room and looked at the faces of the other commanders. "The Devourers have already destroyed 3 Kelrath colonies. Millions are dead. The last planet, Kelrath Prime, still has 40 million people alive. They're protected by a force field, but it's failing." "How long do they have?" someone asked. "Maybe 3 days. Maybe less." Admiral Price stood up. He was an old man with gray hair and hard eyes. "The galaxy thinks we're strange for keeping our military. They think we should have given up weapons when we reached the stars. They're about to learn why we didn't." He pressed a button and a hologram appeared. It showed a creature that looked like a giant bug with too many legs and sharp claws. Its mouth had teeth like knives. "This is a devourer. They're about the size of a large dog. They hunt in groups, thousands at a time. They eat everything living. Plants, animals, people, everything. Then they use what they eat to make more of themselves." The room was quiet. Jake studied the image. The creature looked fast and mean. "How many are we facing?" asked Commander Lisa Grant. She was in charge of the ground forces. "Last count was over 50 million, Admiral Price said, and the number grows every day." Someone whistled. 50 million against however many soldiers Earth could send. The math was not good, but Lisa Grant smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had fought before and would fight again. "When do we leave?" "Tomorrow morning," Admiral Price said. "We're sending the EDS Valkyrie with 200 soldiers. The best we have. Special forces from every country. Your job is to get those 40 million Kelrath people off their planet before the shield fails." "And the Devourers?" Jake asked. Admiral Price looked at each person in the room. "Kill as many as you can." The meeting ended. Jake walked down the hall to the hangar bay where the Valkyrie was being prepared. The ship was huge, built for war. Weapons covered its sides. Fighter ships waited in the launch tubes. Ground vehicles were being loaded into the cargo holds. Soldiers were everywhere, checking equipment and saying goodbye to friends. They knew this mission was dangerous. Some of them would not come home. Jake found Lisa Grant talking to her sergeants. She saw him and walked over. 200 soldiers against 50 million monsters, she said. Should be interesting. The Kelrath are pacifists, Jake said. They don't have weapons. They don't have soldiers. When the Devourers came, they had nothing to fight back with. That's why they called us, Lisa said, because humans remember how to fight. Jake nodded. The whole galaxy is going to be watching this. Good, Lisa said. Let them watch. Let them see what humans do when someone asks for help. She walked away to continue preparing her troops. Jake watched her go, then looked around the hangar. Soldiers loaded bullets and grenades. Mechanics checked the guns on the fighting vehicles. Medical teams prepared their supplies for wounded soldiers. This was humanity at war, not fighting for land or money or power, fighting for someone else, fighting because it was right. The Kelrath people had sent a message into space, hoping someone would hear it. They probably didn't expect anyone to answer. After all, the other alien species were peaceful. They had no armies to send, no weapons to use, no soldiers trained to fight. But humans were different. Humans had spent their whole history fighting. They knew war. They understood violence. And now they would use that knowledge to save a species that knew nothing about it. Jake walked to the observation deck and looked at Earth one more time. Somewhere down there, families were having dinner. Kids were playing. People were living normal lives. They didn't know that in a few hours, 200 of Earth's warriors would jump to light speed and travel 47 light years to fight an enemy that had destroyed worlds. But they would know soon. Everyone would know. Because when the Kelrath sent their message, "Help us," Earth heard it. And Earth was sending an answer. Not words, not promises, not hopes. Earth was sending its warriors. The hangar lights dimmed as the Valkyrie's engines started warming up. The sound grew louder and louder, a deep rumble that Jake could feel in his bones. Soldiers started boarding the ship, walking up the ramps in organized lines. Jake took one last look at Earth, then turned and headed for the bridge. He had work to do. They all did. The Devourers had made a mistake. They had attacked a species that humanity cared about, and now they were going to learn something that every human already knew. Peace is good. Peace is nice, but peace doesn't protect itself. Warriors do that, and humanity's warriors were coming. The hangar bay of the EDS Valkyrie was loud and busy. 200 soldiers moved around checking their gear. These were not regular soldiers. They were special forces, the best fighters from every military on Earth. Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Marine Raiders, elite soldiers from America, Europe, Asia, Africa. All of them gathered for one mission. Captain Lisa Grant walked through the bay and watched her people work. She had done this before, led soldiers into danger, but never anything like this. Never against an enemy that had destroyed entire worlds. She climbed onto a metal box so everyone could see her. "Listen up!" she shouted. The noise died down. 200 faces turned to look at her. "In 6 hours, we'll reach the Kelrath system," Lisa said. "The situation is bad. 3 Kelrath colonies are already gone, completely destroyed. Every person dead. Every plant eaten. Nothing left but empty dirt." She pulled out a small device and projected a hologram into the air. It showed a city surrounded by a glowing dome. Outside the dome was darkness, like a living shadow. "This is Theron, the capital city of Kelrath Prime. 40 million people are inside that shield, and outside..." She changed the image. Now they could see what the darkness really was. Creatures. Millions and millions of creatures crawling over each other, testing the shield with their claws and teeth. Outside are the Devourers. Current count is over 50 million. They've been attacking the shield for 5 days straight. The Kelrath say the shield will fail in less than 3 days. Sergeant Ben Hughes raised his hand. He was a big man with short hair and scars on his face from old battles. "What's our mission, Captain?" "Get those 40 million civilians out," Lisa said. "Earth is sending transport ships, but they need time to load everyone. We're going to buy them that time." "How?" asked Corporal Nina Ross. She was small but tough, a demolitions expert who could blow up anything. "We're going to hold the line," Lisa said simply. "We land outside the shield. We set up defensive positions, and we kill everything that tries to get past us to those civilians." The hangar was quiet for a moment. Then Private Danny Wright, a young soldier with bright eyes, laughed. "So we're outnumbered 250,000 to 1? That's it?" "That's it," Lisa confirmed. "I've had worse odds," Ben said with a grin. Several soldiers laughed. It was not really funny, but soldiers always joked before battle. It helped with the fear. Lisa continued. "The Kelrath are pacifists. They don't understand war. They've never had to fight for anything. When we asked them why they don't have weapons, they looked at us like we were crazy. They said they evolved past violence." "Well, violence didn't evolve past them," Nina said quietly. "No, it didn't," Lisa agreed. "That's why they called us. Because humans didn't evolve past violence. We learned to control it, to focus it, to use it when needed, and right now it's needed." She looked at each soldier, making eye contact. "The other alien species think we're primitive. They think we're stuck in our violent past. They look at our weapons and our armies and they feel sorry for us. Like we're children who haven't grown up yet." Lisa's voice got harder. "They're about to learn something. Violence isn't childish. It's not primitive. It's a tool. And like any tool, it's about how you use it. We don't fight for fun. We don't fight for hate. We fight to protect. And that's what we're going to do. Protect 40 million innocent people from monsters." "Hoorah!" someone shouted. Then everyone was shouting. The sound filled the hangar, a roar of determination and courage. Lisa let them shout for a moment, then raised her hand for quiet. "Now let's talk about these devourers. They're not smart like humans, but they're not stupid either. They have a kind of group intelligence. One devourer is dangerous. 1,000 working together can take down anything." She changed the hologram to show a detailed image of a single creature. "They're fast. They can run as fast as a car on a highway. Their claws can cut through steel. Their jaws can bite through armor. And they're hungry, always hungry." "What's the best way to kill them?" asked Lieutenant Kevin Barnes. "Fireworks. Explosives work. Bullets work if you aim for the head or the soft parts between their armor plates. Plasma weapons work best. We've got enough firepower to kill millions of them." Lisa paused. "But there are 50 million, and more being born every hour. We can't kill them all." "We don't need to kill them all," Ben said. "We just need to hold them off for 3 days while the civilians evacuate." "Exactly," Lisa confirmed. 3 days, 72 hours. We hold the line for 72 hours and everyone lives. She looked around the hangar one more time. "Get your gear ready. Check your weapons. Write your letters home if you need to. We land in 6 hours." The soldiers dispersed, returning to their preparations. Lisa walked to her own gear and started checking it. Her rifle was clean and loaded. Her armor was in good condition. Her knife was sharp. Ben came over and stood next to her. "You think we can do this?" "We have to," Lisa said. "Those 40 million Kelrath didn't do anything wrong. They just lived their lives, made their art, thought their thoughts. They don't deserve to die because some monsters showed up." "The universe isn't fair," Ben said. "No, it's not. But we can make it a little more fair." Lisa looked at her old friend. They had fought together in 3 conflicts on Earth before joining the space military. "Remember Brazil? When we held that bridge for 2 days against a whole battalion?" "I remember. I also remember we almost died." "Almost doesn't count," Lisa said with a slight smile. "We held that bridge and the civilians got across. Same thing here, just bigger." Ben nodded, just bigger, and with more teeth. Across the hangar, Nina was teaching some of the younger soldiers about explosives. Danny was cleaning his machine gun with careful attention. Kevin was studying a map of Theron, memorizing the streets and buildings. These were humanity's warriors. Some were young, some were old. Some had fought in many battles, some in only a few. But all of them had volunteered for this mission. When Earth asked for soldiers to save an alien species, thousands had raised their hands. These 200 were the best of the best. Lisa's communication device beeped. It was Commander Jake Morrison from the bridge. "Captain Grant, we're approaching the Kelrath system. You'll want to see this." Lisa made her way to the bridge. Through the main window, she could see 3 planets. They should have been green and blue, covered with oceans and forests. Instead, they were gray and brown, dead. "The Devourers did that in 2 weeks, Jake said quietly. 3 entire planets, stripped clean of all life. Lisa felt cold anger in her chest. This was not war. War was between soldiers who chose to fight. This was murder, genocide, whole worlds destroyed by mindless hunger. "And Kelrath Prime?" she asked. Jake pointed to a 4th planet. It still had color, blue oceans and green land. But even from here, they could see the dark mass covering half the main continent. The Devourers had already consumed half the planet. "The capital city is on the other side," Jake said. "The shield is holding, but barely. Our sensors show it's losing power every hour." "Then we better get down there," Lisa said. She returned to the hangar where her soldiers were already getting into the dropships. These were armored vehicles designed to fly through atmosphere and land in hostile territory. Each one carried 20 soldiers plus equipment. Lisa boarded her dropship and strapped in. Ben sat across from her. Nina was checking her explosives one more time. Danny was quiet, probably thinking about home. The dropship's engines started. The bay doors opened, and Lisa could see the planet below, Kelrath Prime, a world that would either be saved or destroyed in the next 3 days. "All teams, this is Captain Grant," she said into the radio. "Remember your training. Stay together, watch each other's backs, and make every shot count. These creatures are going to learn something today. They're going to learn that humans protect their friends." The dropships launched, 10 of them, falling toward the planet like meteors. Inside, 200 warriors prepared themselves for battle. The galaxy thought humans were strange for keeping their weapons and armies. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were right. The dropships screamed through the atmosphere of Kelrath Prime. Inside, Lisa felt the heat and heard the metal groaning under the stress. She had done combat drops before, but never felt this nervous. Maybe because the stakes had never been this high. Through the small window, she could see the city of Theron getting closer. The crystalline towers sparkled in the sunlight. Beautiful gardens spread between the buildings. It looked like something from a dream. Then she saw the nightmare surrounding it. The Devourers covered the ground like a living carpet, millions of them crawling over each other, pressing against the shield. The shield itself flickered and sparked where they touched it. It was dying. 30 seconds, the pilot shouted back. Lisa activated her helmet and checked her weapon one more time. Around her, the other soldiers did the same. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were sharp. "Ready." "Remember," Lisa said, "controlled fire. Don't waste ammunition. These things are fast, but they're predictable. Aim for the head and the joints, and stay together. A lone soldier is dead soldier." 10 seconds! The dropship's engines reversed, slowing their fall. Then, with a heavy thud, they hit the ground. The doors blew open and light flooded in. "Go, go, go!" Lisa shouted. She ran down the ramp with her rifle up and ready. Her boots hit the alien soil, and she immediately scanned for targets. She did not have to look far. The Devourers had noticed them. Thousands of the creatures turned away from the shield and started running toward the dropships. They moved fast, their many legs eating up the distance. Their mouths opened, showing rows of sharp teeth. Their claws clicked against the ground. "Contact front!" Ben yelled. "Open fire!" Lisa commanded. The human weapons roared to life. Plasma rifles sent bright bolts of energy into the mass of creatures. Regular rifles cracked and boomed. Machine guns chattered, spitting out hundreds of bullets per minute. Devourers exploded, their bodies torn apart by the concentrated fire. Green blood sprayed into the air. The creatures shrieked, a sound like metal scraping on metal. But more kept coming. For every one that fell, 2 more took its place. Lisa fired in short bursts, each one dropping a devourer. Next to her, Ben was using a heavy plasma cannon, the beam cutting through multiple creatures at once. Nina threw a grenade into a cluster of devourers, and they disappeared in a ball of fire. "Push forward," Lisa ordered. "We need to establish a perimeter." The humans advanced in coordinated teams. 3 soldiers would fire while 3 moved forward. Then they would switch. It was basic infantry tactics, practiced for hundreds of years. Simple but effective. The Devourers learned quickly that running straight at the humans was suicide. They started trying to flank, coming from the sides. But the humans had expected this. Kevin's squad was positioned on the left, Danny's on the right. They caught the flanking Devourers in crossfire and cut them down. "This is too easy," Danny shouted over the radio. "They're not adapting." "Don't get confident," Lisa warned. "There are millions more where these came from." She was right. As the first wave of Devourers died, a second wave appeared, then a third. They came from all directions now, drawn by the noise and movement. Lisa's rifle was getting hot. She could feel the heat through her gloves. Around her, other soldiers were changing their magazines and calling out ammunition counts. "We need to reach the shield generator controls," Lisa said. "That building, 300 meters ahead." She pointed to a tall structure near the shield wall. If they could get inside and link up with the Kelrath, they could coordinate the evacuation better. "Covering fire!" Ben ordered. His machine gun team set up and started shooting, creating a wall of bullets that nothing could pass through. Lisa led a squad forward at a run. Devourers lunged at them from the sides, but the soldiers were ready. Nina used her shotgun at close range, blowing creatures apart. Kevin used his knife when one got too close, stabbing it in what passed for a neck. They reached the building and Lisa kicked open the door. Inside, a group of Kelrath civilians huddled in fear. They were tall and thin, with large eyes and delicate features. They looked at the armored humans with confusion and hope mixed together. "We're here to help," Lisa said, hoping they understood. "Where are the shield controls?" One of the Kelrath, an older one with gray skin, pointed up. "Top floor, but the Devourers, they are everywhere outside." "We noticed," Lisa said dryly. "Stay here and stay quiet. We'll protect you." She led her squad up the stairs. Behind them, Ben's team was still holding the perimeter. The sound of gunfire was constant now, like thunder that never stopped. The control room was full of alien technology. Screens showed views of the city and the shield. One screen showed the power level of the shield. It was at 30% and dropping. "We have less time than we thought," Kevin said, looking at the numbers. Lisa activated her radio. "Commander Morrison, this is Grant. The shield is failing faster than expected. We need those transport ships now." Jake's voice came back, crackling with static. "First transport is landing at the north gate in 10 minutes. But Lisa, we've got a problem." "What problem?" "Our sensors show the Devourers are gathering. All of them. They're preparing for a major assault." Lisa looked at the screen showing the area outside the city. Jake was right. The Devourers were pulling back from the shield and forming into a massive group. Millions of them, all gathering together. "They're going to hit us with everything they have," Lisa said. "Can you hold?" Jake asked. Lisa looked out the window at her soldiers below. 200 humans against an ocean of monsters. The math said they should lose. Logic said they should retreat. Common sense said they should run. but they were not going to do any of those things. "We'll hold," Lisa said. "We didn't come this far to give up now." She switched to the command channel so all her soldiers could hear. "All teams, this is Grant. The Devourers are massing for a big attack. I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to be the hardest fight of our lives, but those transport ships are coming. 40 million innocent people are counting on us, so we're going to dig in and we're going to hold this line, no matter what." Across the perimeter, soldiers checked their weapons and prepared their positions. They set up machine gun nests and placed explosive charges. They stacked spare ammunition where they could reach it quickly. They did everything they had been trained to do. Ben climbed up to the control room where Lisa was watching. "You know what's funny?" he said. "What?" "Back on Earth, people always asked why we still needed soldiers. They said wars were over. They said we should just be peaceful like the other aliens." He looked out at the gathering Devourers. "I wonder what those people would say now." "They'd probably say we told you so," Lisa replied. Yeah, they would." Ben checked his rifle. "How much ammunition do we have?" "Enough for maybe 12 hours of heavy fighting." "And how long do we need to hold?" 72 hours. Ben was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, that same dark laugh from the hangar. "Well, I guess we'll have to be creative." The Devourers started moving. It began as a ripple through the mass, then became a wave, then an avalanche, millions of creatures running toward the city, toward the humans, toward their prey. The sound was like the end of the world. The ground actually shook from the weight of so many bodies moving at once. "Here they come!" someone shouted. "Steady!" Lisa called out. "Wait for my command! Let them get close!" The Devourers came closer. 500 meters, 400, 300. "Now!" Lisa screamed. "Fire everything!" The human weapons opened up all at once. The noise was deafening. Plasma bolts lit up the twilight. Tracers from machine guns drew lines of light through the air. Grenades exploded in the mass of creatures. Devourers died by the hundreds, by the thousands. They fell in heaps, their bodies piling up. But more came behind them, climbing over their dead, driven by mindless hunger. They hit the human lines like a tsunami hitting a beach. Lisa fired until her rifle overheated, then switched to her pistol. A Devourer got past the first line and charged at her. She shot it in the face, and it dropped at her feet. Another came, and she shot that one too. All along the perimeter, humans fought hand to hand with the creatures when they got too close. Knives flashed. Grenades exploded at close range. Soldiers screamed battle cries in a dozen different languages, and somehow, impossibly, the line held. Nina's demolition charges went off, creating walls of fire that the Devourers could not pass. Danny's machine gun never stopped firing, his loader feeding belt after belt of ammunition. Kevin used a flamethrower, burning dozens of creatures at once. The battle lasted for 2 hours before the Devourers finally pulled back. They left behind thousands of their dead. The ground was covered in green blood and broken bodies. The humans had lost 12 soldiers, 12 brave men and women who had stood their ground and paid the ultimate price. Lisa stood among the exhausted survivors and looked at the city behind them. Inside that shield, 40 million people were still alive, still safe, because of what these soldiers had done. "First transport is landing," Jake reported. "Evacuation has begun." Lisa keyed her radio. "You hear that? We did it. We held the line. Now we just have to do it again, and again, for 3 more days." A soldier nearby, covered in blood and dirt, laughed weakly. "Is that all?" Lisa smiled despite everything. "Is that all?" 2 days had passed since the humans landed. 2 days of constant fighting. 2 days of holding back an enemy that never stopped coming. The soldiers were exhausted, running on nothing but determination and coffee. Lisa stood in what they were now calling the command post. It was really just a converted Kelrath building with a good view of the battle lines. Holographic maps covered the walls, showing every position and every soldier. The maps were mostly red. Red meant heavy enemy contact. Red meant soldiers fighting for their lives. Every position around the city was red. Sector 4 is critical, Lieutenant Kevin Barnes said. He looked terrible. His armor was cracked and dented. His face was pale with exhaustion. The Devourers broke through the outer barrier. We had to fall back to the secondary line. Casualties? Lisa asked. 8 wounded, 2 dead. Kevin's voice was flat, trying not to show emotion. We're down to half ammunition. Lisa studied the map. Sector 4 protected the eastern approach to the city. If it fell, the Devourers could flank the other positions. Send 3rd Squad to reinforce, and have Nina set up her surprise package. Kevin managed a tired smile. The Devourers are going to hate that. In Sector 4, Sergeant Ben Hughes was leading what was left of his squad. They had been fighting for 36 hours straight with only short breaks. His machine gun was so hot it was turning colors. His hands were blistered inside his gloves. But he kept firing. The Devourers came in waves. They had learned to be more careful after losing so many in the first day. Now they used cover, hiding behind rocks and dead bodies. They coordinated their attacks better. They were adapting, but humans adapted faster. "Grenade out!" a soldier shouted. The explosion tore apart a group of Devourers trying to flank them. "Reloading!" another called. Immediately, 2 other soldiers increased their fire rate to cover the gap. This was what humans did better than any species in the galaxy. They worked together, they covered each other. They adapted to any situation. 3rd Squad arrived with fresh ammunition and new weapons, and they brought Nina. Nina walked up to Ben with a grin on her dirt-covered face. "I hear you boys need some help." "Just a little," Ben said. "The bugs are getting brave, coming right up the main street." "Perfect," Nina said. She looked at the street, her eyes calculating distances and angles. "Fall back 200 meters. When I give the signal, everyone get down and cover your ears." Ben knew better than to argue with Nina about explosives. He ordered everyone back to the new position. The Devourers, seeing the humans retreat, thought they were winning. They surged forward down the street, thousands of them, packed tight together. Nina waited until they were in the perfect position. Then she pressed a button on her detonator. The entire street exploded. Nina had spent the last day placing charges in the buildings on both sides. When they went off, the buildings collapsed onto the street, burying hundreds of Devourers under tons of rubble. Fire swept through the wreckage, consuming everything. The surviving Devourers scattered in confusion. "Advance!" Ben ordered. His soldiers moved forward, shooting the stunned creatures with precision. Back at the command post, Lisa received a message from Jake on the Valkyrie. "Captain Grant, we have a situation." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. There was always a situation. "What now?" "The Devourers are pulling back from all sectors." Lisa opened her eyes. "Pulling back? Why?" "We don't know. But our sensors show they're gathering again. All of them, in one massive group." Lisa felt ice in her stomach. She looked at the holographic display. Jake was right. The red markers showing Devourers were moving, converging on a point 5 kilometers from the city. "How many?" she asked. "All of them," Jake said quietly. 70 million. They're going to hit you with everything they have. One final assault." Lisa did the math in her head. 70 million Devourers against less than 200 soldiers. Many of those soldiers were wounded. All of them were exhausted. They were almost out of ammunition. "When?" Lisa asked. "Best guess? 6 hours. They seem to be waiting for something. Maybe darkness." 6 hours. Lisa looked around the command post. Kevin was there, and Nina had just arrived back from Sector 4. Danny was asleep in a corner, too tired to stay awake. Other soldiers were scattered around, some checking weapons, some just staring at nothing. These were her people, her soldiers. She had led them into this hell, and now she had to lead them through the worst part. "How's the evacuation going?" Lisa asked. "Good news there," Jake said. "We're ahead of schedule. 30 million civilians are already off planet. We need 10 more hours, and everyone will be safe." 10 hours. They needed to hold for 10 more hours. But the final assault was coming in 6. Lisa made her decision. "Get me Admiral Price." A minute later, the Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He looked worried. "I've seen the sensor data, Captain. That's a lot of hostiles." "Yes, sir. We can't stop them all. Not with what we have left." "What do you need?" "Orbital bombardment. Hit them before they can attack." Admiral Price shook his head. "We've been trying." "They're too spread out and they move too fast. By the time our weapons hit, they've already moved. We'd waste our ammunition." Lisa had expected that answer. "Then we fight them on the ground, but I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If we fall, if the line breaks, you pull out the transport ships. Save as many civilians as you can. Don't wait for us." Admiral Price was quiet for a long moment. "You know I can't leave you down there." "You can and you will," Lisa said firmly. "That's an order, sir. The mission is to save the Kelrath people, not to save us. If we die but they live, then we succeeded." The Admiral looked old suddenly, old and sad. "Understood, Captain, but let's hope it doesn't come to that." The connection ended. Lisa turned to find all the soldiers in the room staring at her. They had heard everything. "So," Nina said, 6 hours until the biggest fight of our lives. What do we do?" Lisa thought about it. "We prepare, we rest, we eat, we write letters home, and then we stand our ground and show these creatures what humans are made of." Over the next 6 hours, the soldiers prepared. They distributed the remaining ammunition evenly. They positioned their weapons for maximum effect. They set up final defensive positions around the shield generator building. Lisa found Ben sitting on a pile of rubble, looking at the sunset. She sat down next to him. "Beautiful planet," Ben said. "Shame about the monsters trying to eat everyone." "Yeah," Lisa agreed. They sat in silence for a minute. Then Lisa said, "I'm sorry I got you into this." Ben laughed. "Got me into this? Lisa, I volunteered. We all did. Nobody made us come here." "Still. 70 million to 200, those are bad odds." "We've had worse." "No, we haven't." "Okay, you're right. These are definitely the worst odds we've ever had." Ben stood up and stretched. "But you know what? I'm glad I'm here. These Kelrath people, they never hurt anyone. They just wanted to live in peace. They didn't deserve this. So if I have to die to save them, then that's okay. That's what soldiers do." Lisa stood too. "We're not going to die." "No? No. We're going to fight like humans have always fought. Smart, mean, and together. And we're going to hold that line for 10 more hours. Then we're going to go home and tell everyone about the time 200 humans saved 40 million aliens from extinction." Ben grinned. "I like that story better." The sun set. Darkness covered the battlefield. In the distance, they could hear movement. Millions of legs clicking on the ground. Millions of mouths chittering with hunger. The final assault was coming. Lisa activated the command channel. "All units, this is Grant. In a few minutes, everything the Devourers have is coming at us. They're going to try to break us, to overwhelm us, to make us run." She paused, looking out at the dark horizon where the enemy waited. "But we're not going to break. We're not going to run. Because behind us are 40 million people who can't fight for themselves. They need us. And we don't abandon people who need us. That's what makes us human. Not our weapons. Not our tactics. Our willingness to stand between the innocent and the monsters." She took a deep breath. "So when they come, we hold, we fight, we survive. And when the sun rises tomorrow, we'll still be here. Because that's what we do. That's what we've always done. Now let's show the galaxy why humanity never gave up its warriors." The Devourers attacked at midnight. They came like a wave, like a flood, like the end of the world. And the humans stood their ground. The battle for Theron would be remembered for 1,000 years. 70 million Devourers hit the human lines at midnight. They came from every direction at once, a living tide of claws and teeth and hunger. The sound they made was like the planet itself screaming. Lisa fired her rifle until it melted. Then she picked up another rifle from a fallen soldier and kept firing. Around her, soldiers did the same. When their rifles died, they used pistols. When the pistols ran dry, they used knives. When the knives broke, they used their bare hands. The Devourers broke through the outer line in the first hour. The humans fell back to the secondary positions and kept fighting. They broke through the secondary line in the second hour. The humans fell back again, now fighting in the streets of Theron itself. The Kelrath civilians watched from buildings, seeing humans fight and die to protect them. Private Danny Wright's machine gun finally stopped working after firing 50,000 rounds. He picked up a plasma rifle and kept shooting. A Devourer lunged at him, and he killed it with the rifle butt. Another came, and he killed that one too. He fought until a creature's claw caught him across the chest, knocking him down. He thought he was dead. Then Corporal Nina Ross appeared, throwing a grenade that killed the Devourer standing over him. She pulled Danny to his feet. "Not today!" she shouted. "You don't get to die today!" They fought back to back, 2 soldiers against an ocean of enemies. Sergeant Ben Hughes ran out of ammunition completely. He drew his knife, a simple combat blade that his grandfather had carried in an old war on Earth. He stood at a doorway, protecting the Kelrath civilians hiding inside. The Devourers came at him one at a time because the doorway was narrow, and one at a time, Ben killed them. He lost count after 20. His arms were tired, his body hurt. But he kept fighting because that's what soldiers do. They don't stop. They don't quit. They hold the line. Lieutenant Kevin Barnes coordinated the retreat from his position in the command post. As the humans fell back, he called down artillery strikes from the Valkyrie in orbit. The ship's weapons carved burning lines through the Devourer swarms, killing thousands. But there were always more. "Captain," Kevin shouted to Lisa, "we're down to 80 soldiers still combat effective. We can't hold much longer." Lisa looked at the tactical display. He was right. The red markers showing Devourers were everywhere now. In just a few more minutes, they would reach the shield generator building. Once that fell, the shield would collapse and the Devourers would flood into the city. 40 million civilians would die. She activated her radio. "Commander Morrison, how much longer on the evacuation?" Jake's voice came back, strained. 2 more hours. The last transport is loading now, but it's taking time. These are civilians, not soldiers. They're scared and moving slowly." 2 hours. Lisa looked at her soldiers. Exhausted, wounded, almost out of ammunition. They had been fighting for 3 days straight. They had done everything possible and more. But they needed to do the impossible for 2 more hours. "All units," Lisa said calmly, "fall back to the generator building. Final defensive positions. We're going to hold here until the last civilian is evacuated." The surviving soldiers retreated in good order, still fighting, still coordinated. They reached the generator building and barricaded the doors. They set up their last weapons. They loaded their last magazines. The Devourers surrounded the building, climbing over each other to reach the walls. Their claws scraped against the metal. Their teeth bit at the doors. There were millions of them outside and less than 80 humans inside. "This is it," Ben said, standing next to Lisa at a window. They were both firing at the creatures below, dropping them one by one. "This is where we make our last stand." "Yes," Lisa agreed. She was strangely calm. She had accepted that she might die here. They all had. But they would die protecting 40 million innocent lives. That was worth it. That made it mean something. Time seemed to slow down. Lisa saw Danny using a broken rifle as a club, smashing Devourers that got through a window. She saw Nina throwing her last grenade, taking out a dozen creatures. She saw Kevin, wounded and bleeding, still calling out targets and coordinating fire. She saw human soldiers doing what human soldiers had done for thousands of years, standing between civilians and death. Then she heard a sound that made her heart jump, a roar of engines, big engines. Through the window, she saw transport ships flying overhead. Not just one or two, dozens of them. They were the evacuation ships, but they were not leaving. They were turning around, coming back. Their weapons opened fire. Plasma cannons lit up the night. Missiles streaked down from the sky. The transport ships, each carrying thousands of Kelrath civilians to safety, had armed themselves and returned to help. But it was not just the transport ships. Behind them came fighters from the Valkyrie, and behind the fighters came something else. More ships, dozens of them. Different designs, different colors. "Lisa," Jake's voice came over the radio, and he was laughing. "You're not going to believe this. The other alien species heard what was happening. They sent their own ships to help. The Praxians sent their fleet. The Zin sent transports to help evacuate. Even the Quinn sent medical ships." Lisa watched as alien ships she had never seen before joined the battle. They were not warships. Most of them were cargo ships or passenger vessels. But they had weapons, basic ones, and they were using them to attack the Devourers. The galaxy, which had no armies and no warriors, which had lived in peace for thousands of years, had seen humans fighting to save an innocent species, and they had decided to help. The Devourers, caught between the humans on the ground and the alien ships in the air, began to break. Their coordination failed. They started to scatter, running in random directions. "All units," Lisa ordered, "advance. Push them back." The human soldiers, exhausted and wounded but still fighting, moved forward. They reclaimed the streets they had lost. They pushed the Devourers away from the city, and with every step, the alien ships above provided covering fire. The battle lasted until dawn. As the sun rose over Theron, Lisa stood on the steps of the generator building and looked at the battlefield. Dead Devourers covered the ground as far as she could see. Green blood stained the streets. The air smelled of smoke and death. But the city still stood, the shield still held, and the last transport ship was lifting off, carrying the final Kelrath civilians to safety. They had done it. 40 million people saved. Lisa activated her radio one last time. "All units, report status." One by one, her soldiers reported in. Out of 200 who had landed 3 days ago, 143 were still alive. 57 had died, giving their lives to protect people they had never met, on a planet far from home. Ben walked up to her, his armor torn and his face covered in dirt. "We won." "We won," Lisa confirmed. "The galaxy helped in the end." "Yes, we showed them how to fight, and they learned." Lisa looked up at the alien ships still circling overhead. Maybe that's humanity's real gift to the galaxy. Not our weapons or our tactics, but our willingness to fight for others. 3 weeks later, Lisa stood before the Galactic Council. The huge chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species. They were all staring at her. Elder Shenra, speaking for the Kelrath people, addressed the council. "For thousands of years, we believed that violence was primitive, that civilized species should never fight. We built our society on peace and art and philosophy." The old Kelrath's voice grew soft. "And when death came for us, our philosophies meant nothing. Our art could not protect our children. Our peace made us victims." She turned to look at Lisa. "We sent a distress call into space, hoping someone would hear, hoping someone would help. We did not expect anyone to answer. After all, the galaxy has no warriors. The galaxy has no armies. The galaxy has forgotten how to fight." Shenra's voice grew stronger. "But Earth remembered. Earth sent its soldiers. 200 warriors who stood between our 40 million civilians and extinction. They fought for 3 days without rest. They fought until their weapons broke. They fought until they had nothing left to give. And then they fought some more. The chamber was completely silent. 57 humans died on our world, Shenra continued. 57 warriors who gave their lives for people they had never met, who died so that our children could live, who proved that peace must be defended, and sometimes that defense requires violence. She walked to where Lisa stood. Captain Lisa Grant, Sergeant Ben Hughes, Private Danny Wright, Corporal Nina Ross, Lieutenant Kevin Barnes, and all the others who fought at Theron. You have shown the galaxy something we had forgotten. That goodness must sometimes be protected by those willing to face evil. That peace requires guardians. That civilization needs defenders. Shenra placed a hand on Lisa's shoulder. We called for help. You sent your deadliest warriors, but you gave us so much more. You gave us heroes. The entire Galactic Council rose to their feet. The applause started small, then grew until it filled the chamber. Hundreds of alien species, many of whom had never witnessed violence, were honoring human soldiers for their capacity to wage war. Later, on the flight back to Earth, Lisa stood at a window looking at the stars. Ben found her there, 2 beers in his hands. He gave her one. Think they understand now? Ben asked. Why we kept our armies? Some of them do, Lisa said. The Praxians are already asking us to train their security forces. The Zin want to learn our tactics. Even the Quinn are talking about forming a defense fleet. So we taught the galaxy how to fight. We taught them when to fight, Lisa corrected. And why? That's more important. They drank in silence for a while, watching Earth grow larger ahead of them. Home. They were going home. Do you think it will happen again? Ben asked quietly. Another species in trouble? Another call for help? Lisa thought about the 57 empty seats on the transport back. She thought about the 3 days of hell they had endured. She thought about 40 million civilians who were alive because humans had remembered how to be warriors. Probably, she said. The galaxy is a dangerous place. There will always be threats, always be monsters. And humans will answer? Humans will answer, Lisa confirmed. Because that's who we are. We protect, we defend, we stand between the innocent and the darkness. That's what warriors do. Ben nodded slowly. Then I guess the galaxy is lucky we never evolved past violence. No, Lisa said, smiling. We evolved violence into something better. We turned it into protection, into sacrifice, into heroism. She raised her beer toward the stars. To the 57, may they rest in peace. To the 57, Ben echoed. Behind them, Earth waited. The blue planet where humanity had learned to fight, where they had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war, and now, finally, they knew what all those wars had been preparing them for, not to conquer, not to destroy, but to protect. The SOS had been clear. Help us. Earth had sent its deadliest warriors, and the galaxy would never forget.